Sechus Gittin Daf Samach Gimel. We begin at the last 4 lines on Daf Samach Vez. The Gemara is still discussing the concepts of Shliach LeKabbalah and Shliach LeHalacha. Shliach LeHalacha again is where the husband makes a messenger to play his role and bring the get to the wife. Shliach LeKabbalah is where the wife makes a messenger to go to the husband and receive the get. And from the moment he received it, it is as if she received it and she is divorced on the spot. Gemara is going to discuss where we have problems as to who said what and how you understand what people mean. So the Gemara's first case is talking about where the wife called someone and she said, listen, I want you to be my shliach leholacha. I mean, she says, I want you to go and bring me a get. Go to my husband and take the get from him. She did not make a Moshiach LeKabbalah. She just said, go take the get and bring it to me. And this person goes to the husband and he says, your wife made me a shliach likabbalah. That means he falsely reported that as soon as he receives the get, she's going to be divorced. So the husband goes ahead and he gives him the get and he says, take the get in accordance with her instructions, as what she said. Now the husband does not know what her real instructions were. The husband may mean take it as a shliach leholacha, like he understood, like she really said. Or the husband may mean take it as a shliach lekabbalah, like he was told she said. So what is the halacha here? What did the husband mean, and what is the halacha l'maisa? So Rav Nachman says, name of Rabbi Bar Avua, that she's not divorced. Even when the get reaches her hand, she's not divorced. So the Gemara says the reason must be because the husband is relying on the report of the messenger. The messenger said that I'm a sheikh lekabbalah. The husband assumes she's a sheikh lekabbalah. The husband is therefore not making him a sheikh lehalacha, and therefore he's neither. He's not a sheikh lehalacha because the husband didn't make him that, assuming that he was a sheikh lekabbalah. He's not a sheikh lekabbalah because the wife didn't make him that. The wife said be a sheikh lehalacha. Therefore he's nothing, and they get she is not divorced at all. Now says the Gemara, this should be a proof in a question which we've had in Maseches Bava Metzia, Parkas Eicher. And you have a case like this where a sheikh gives a false report, and the one who's receiving it says, do what he said or do what she said. Is he relying on the report that he got? Or is he saying, listen, I don't know what report you got, but whatever it is, follow the original instructions? That's exactly the case here. We don't know if when he says, do what she said, he means what you told me she said, or if he means, I don't know if I believe you, but whatever she said, that's what you should do. So you see here clearly that it's assuming that he's relying on what he said. He's saying, be a shliach laholacha. He's saying bir shliach lekabbalah, because if he was saying bir shliach, be whatever she said, then he is making her a shliach lehalacha, like the wife said is a shliach lehalacha, and therefore when the get reaches the wife's hand, she should be divorced. So the Gemara says, no, this is not a proof that that's what's happening over here. It could be that Rav Nachman means something else entirely. And there is a situation in which you could have had a proof, but that's not what's happening here. What Rav Nachman might mean is that when the shliach came and he said, your wife made me a shliach lekabbalah, he means to say, I refuse to be a shliach lehalacha. And therefore the husband really is saying, do what the wife said. And I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, that's what you should do. And therefore you should be a shliach lehalacha. Not like what we're assuming, not like what we wanted to say. The husband is saying, go with what the wife actually said. I don't necessarily believe you. However, the shliach is saying, I don't want to be a shliach lehalacha. That's why he came and he said, I'm a shliach lekabbalah. And therefore, he doesn't work as a shliach lehalacha because he said he doesn't want to be one. He doesn't work as a shliach lekabbalah because he was never made a shliach lekabbalah by the wife. And therefore, it doesn't work. Now, what would have been a case where you would have had a proof? So the Gemara says, if the story would have been the other way around, you would have had a proof no matter what Rav Nachman would have paskin, as long as the paskin works at some point. Meaning, let's say, the wife said be a shliach lekabbalah, and then the shliach comes and reports, your wife made me a shliach leholacha, and then he says do what she said. So now here we would have had a proof either way, and if Rav Nachman would have said that it works, we would have had a proof either way. Why? Because if Rav Nachman would have said that the get works when the shliach receives it, that means that he's a valid shliach lekabbalah. So and that is what the wife had said. So you see that the husband is relying on what the wife said. He's saying, do whatever she said. I don't know what to do whatever she said. Therefore, the wife said lekabbalah. The husband also means lekabbalah. Therefore, he is a lemaisa sheikh lekabbalah. And that would explain what Rav Nachman means when he said that she's divorced. As soon as the shliach receives the get, he's a valid shliach lekabbalah. Now, if Rav Nachman would have said the other way, if Rav Nachman would have said, know that she becomes divorced as soon as the get reaches her hand, so then you would see that the husband's relying on the shliach, because the shliach said I'm a sheikh lehalacha, and the husband would then be agreeing he's a sheikh lehalacha, and he's a valid sheikh lehalacha. It doesn't matter what the wife said, and when he gets to the wife, then when he brings the get to the wife, then he's a sheikh lehalacha, and the job is completed. It would have shown clearly that the husband's relying on what the shliach said, and he's saying that I'm making you what you reported that she wanted you to be. Now, that would have been a good proof. However, in this situation where Rav Nachman said that it's not Megares, it could just be because the Sheikh was canceling. You don't see anything about whether he's relying on her or he's relying on him. Okay, now the Gemara wants to bring a proof against Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman had paskined in our situation. Rav Nachman had said that that the divorce does not work. Not when the sheikh receives the get, not when the wife receives the get, meaning that this man is neither a sheikh lahalacha nor a sheikh lakabala, because the wife made him a sheikh lahalacha, which she can't, and the husband was assuming he's a sheikh lakabala, which he doesn't have the power to do either, and he isn't. So now the Gemara has a kash on that. We bring up Brisa, which has the following scenario. The husband said, "Be mekabel this get for my wife," or take this get to my wife. Either of those two things. Now, hiskabel obviously he can't do. Halich he could do. So the halacha is that he could change his mind. He could take the get back. That implies that he can change his mind as long as the get doesn't reach his wife. However, once the messenger goes and takes the get to his wife, he can't change his mind anymore. That means he's functioning as a shliach la'alacha. Now, how is he functioning as a shliach la'alacha if he said hiskabel get ze le'ishti? If he said be a shliach lekabbalah? What must be that even in the case where the husband said be mekabel this get, he means whatever works should work. I'm saying mekabel, but whatever situation works, I don't care exactly how it's going to work. I want it to work. And therefore, since the only way that works is lahalacha, it works as a sheikh lahalacha. If that's true, so then in our Gemara, Rav Nachman should also say where the husband said, do what she said, he doesn't know, he doesn't care, he's not involved, he just wants it to be whatever sheikh is going to work, and if sheikh lahalacha is what works, then sheikh lahalacha should be what works. If sheikh lahalacha works, then that's work, but something has to work. So Gemara says no, there's no comparison. In this case, the husband is not receiving any shlichus from the wife. He didn't get anything from someone who's coming from the wife. He's starting this entire procedure on his own. He knows that he can't make a sheikh lekabbalah. So when he says, be mekabel this get from my wife, he means do whatever works. Because he knows that he can't make a sheikh lekabbalah. So he means whatever works. However, when the shliach comes from the wife and says, I was made a sheikh lekabbalah or halacha, and he says, okay, do what she said, he doesn't know what happened. He's been tricked. If he's been tricked, then he does not have an additional intent that it should work in whatever way it's meant to work. Now the Gemara has another proof, also very similar. This is talking about a kitana, that she is married, but she's a child, and she makes a shliach lekabbalah. So the get doesn't work until it gets to her hand, meaning the kabbalah didn't work, because you cannot be a shliach of a katan or a kitana. Now the implication clearly is that once it gets to her hand, it does work. So the problem is she was only shliach lekabbalah. The husband went with being a shliach lekabbalah. The husband didn't make her a shliach. Didn't make him a sheikh lahalacha. So obviously you see that the husband has in mind whatever works. So in our situation, the husband should have in mind whatever works, and it should work therefore. So Gemara says again, similar answer. No, over there a person understands that you cannot be a sheikh of a katan, and therefore that's why he intends for whatever situation should work, or he intends that it should explicitly be a sheikh lahalacha, because he knows he can't be a sheikh of the wife because she's a katan. Here in our situation, he was fooled. He thought that he was talking to someone who's a sheikh lekabbalah, and therefore he said be mekabel. It did not mean be a sheikh lahalacha as well. The Gemara now has another proof against Rav Nachman and rejection. This proof is where we have two alternating cases. The woman said to the shliach, either be a shliach leholacha. One case, she said, be a shliach leholacha, and the shliach went and said, your wife made me shliach lekabbalah. Or the opposite case, the wife said, be a shliach lekabbalah, and he went to the husband and said, your wife sent me to be a shliach leholacha. Now here, the husband responds with all four possible lashonis. He says, take it to her, give it to her, be zeichen it for her, or be makabel it for her. So the halacha is that he could be chayzer. However, she's divorced and wants to get to her hands, meaning that it functions as a sheikh halacha. So my question is, what are we talking about over here? It can be that we're talking that which of the husband's responses are applying to which case. It can't be that when the husband said Mekabel and Zacha, it was talking about where the wife said Mekabel and Zacha and the Shliach said do not. Because if that was the case, then it should be a Shliach Kabbalah. The wife said be a Shliach Kabbalah. The husband said be a Shliach Kabbalah, should work right away. So obviously it's not talking about that. It's talking about where he said Kabbalah and Zacha, it was where the wife said be a Shliach Laholacha and the husband said be a Shliach Kabbalah. Yeah, we see when it gets to her, it works. Why should that be? The husband didn't make a shliach laholacha, the wife didn't make a shliach lekabbalah, so there was no proper shlichus. Obviously, you say that he had in mind whatever works. Someone says no, it's not. That's not the case over here. The case is actually happening is that she said. The husband responds be a shliach lekabbalah in the case where she said be a shliach lekabbalah also. Now, says the Gemara, okay, so then you see from here that it doesn't work. Obviously, then the husband didn't mean be a shliach lekabbalah. The husband meant what the shliach said, and not what the wife said. So you have a proof to the question we had before of what did the husband mean did the husband mean to believe the shliach, to believe the wife? Was the husband relying on the shliach's words or on the wife's words? What does that have to do with this case? This case is talking about where he said explicitly be mekabel. Our question was in the case where he said, do what she said. That's what we want to know. What she said, he means the report that I received as to what she said, or I don't believe you, but do whatever she actually said. We have no proof as to what happens there because that's not what's happening here at all. The Gemara now brings a brisa with another case, and a three-way machlokes tanayim. Brisa says, the woman starts the proceedings. She says to someone, be Mashiach lekabal, go be mekabel my get for me. The shliach comes to the husband and says, accurately, your wife said I should be a shliach lekabbalah. The husband says one of four things: haylech, tain, zachi, or skabel. First two is making a shliach lahalacha. The latter two are making a shliach lekabbalah. So what's the law here? So the Tanna Kama says he functions as a shliach lekabbalah. As soon as he gets the get, she's divorced, and he cannot be chayzer. Obviously, the Tanna Kama's holding is even when he said haylech or tain, that he's agreeing that she should be a shliach, that he should be a shliach lekabbalah, because haylech kizachi could be that haylech works like zachi as well, which is an opinion which we have seen before in the past. That's the shita of the Tanna Kama. Now, Rabbi Nassan does not hold that way. Rabbi Nassan says when he said be mekabel or be zayche, then he can't be chayzer. It's chal as soon as he gets it. Just like she said, they both made a shech kabbalah. However, if he said haylech or tain, then he could still be chayzer until it gets, because it is a shliach laholacha. Haylech is not like zachi. And Rabbi says something very similar to the Tanna Kama. It's our third opinion. Rabbi says no, he could be chayzer. Cannot be chayzer in any of these cases because it is a shliach kabbalah. The only way he could be chayzer is if he said, I don't want you to be mekabel for her. Go and give it. Go and be a shliach halacha. Then he's only a shliach halacha. He can be chayzer until the get reaches her. So Maras Rebbe is the same as the Tanna Kama. Maras says there are two differences. The first is that Rebbe could be holding that haylech is kizachi as well, but you could get out of that by saying, no, I don't want you to be a shliach halacha. Then you can explicitly declare that I am not making a shliach lekabbalah. This haylech is not like zachi. Or the Gemara answers, maybe Rebbe really is a Tanna Kama, and the Brisa just means to reveal to us that Tanna Kama is actually none other than Rebbe. Mar now asks, we've established that Rebbe holds that haylech counts as zachi. When he's saying haylech, he could work as making a shliach lekabbalah, and the Rebbe Nassan holds haylech is not zachi. Now the shayla is what about haylech? Haylech doesn't mean take this to her. Haylech means here it is. I'm saying here it is that saying be zaychen, or is that saying not to be zaychen? According to Rebbe Nassan, who says haylech is not like Zeicha, what about Hilch? Is that count as Zeicha or not? So the Gemara wants to bring a number of different proofs. Gemara's first proof is from a case where he says, be Makabel's get for my wife, or take this, or Hilch, or take this get to my wife. The halacha there is that it's chal when it gets to her, not when he gives it to the shliach, unless the woman had made him a shliach lekabbalah previously. Then, if it was already a shliach lekabbalah and he said his kabel, then it works. Now, the Gemara says, what is this case here? Obviously, it has to be, most likely it is, where he said haylech. Because if he didn't say haylech, what are we discussing? Why does the haylech work? So the halach should be a shliach lekabala, lehalacha, not a shliach lekabala. Why should it work as soon as it gets to her hand? If he was a shliach, as soon as it gets to his hand, if he was a shliach lekabala previously, if the husband just said halach. So obviously, what is really happening is that he said halach, and this is Rabbi Nosson, and Rabbi Nosson holds that halach works. So Gemara says no, this is actually Rebbe. And Rebbe holds that halach is kizachi, and therefore, even though it's a bit of a bigger chiddush to say that's a pshat, but that's what it is, and therefore there's no proof. Another similar type of proof is from our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said, therefore, if the husband says, I don't want you to be mekabelit, I want you to be halachit, I want you to take it and give it to her, then he can still be chayzer because she's not a shliach l'kabbalah, a shliach l'halacha. Says the Gemara, the reason is because he said clearly, I don't want you to be. He clearly saying, I'm not allowing you to be a shliach l'kabbalah. However, if he didn't say that, then he cannot retract. Why, if he said halach, can he not retract? Just because the wife made him shliach l'kabbalah, he did not agree that he should be a shliach l'kabbalah, even though he didn't say explicitly, I don't want you to be, but he said halach. Therefore, the Gemara says it must be that this is Rabbi Nosson, and Rabbi Nosson really agrees that halach is like zeicha, and the cases where he said halach, and therefore it's chal as soon as she receives it, unless he said, I don't want you to be a shliach l'kabbalah. The Gemara says, no, it's Rebbe and it's talking about halach, and halach is kizachi. Now, the Gemara brings a third proof, and this one sticks. Somebody says, halach getzel ishti, take this get to my wife, then he could be a chayzer, because it's shliach l'halacha. If he said halach, then he cannot change his mind, and that means that halach is functioning as a shliach l'kabbalah. So says the Gemara, who is the one that says halach you could change your mind? Obviously, the Gemara is assuming here that we're referring to a case where he was already made a shliach l'kabbalah beforehand by the wife, yet he could still back out where he says halach. That has to be Rabbi Nosson, and Rabbi doesn't hold that way. Rabbi holds that halach could be zeicha, and it clearly says that if he said halach, he cannot back out. That means that halach therefore is like zeicha, and the Gemara accepts this. Now, the Gemara announces a statement from Rav on the subject, which sounds kind of middle of the road. Whereas the kasha on it, Rav has the following halacha. If somebody says, if the wife, makes a shliach l'kabbalah, she says, "Eskabeli giti," and then the messenger comes to the husband and he faithfully says, your wife said I should be a shliach l'kabbalah, and he gives it to him and he says, "Haylech v'tein," take it and bring it and give it to her. So Rabbi Abba says in the name of Rav, in the name of Rav, he is a shliach of the wife and of the husband, and if the husband were to die now, before the get reaches her, meaning after the shliach has received it, but before the wife has received it, which means that it's, according to one side, she's divorced, and one side she's not divorced, she has to get a chalitza, and she can't do yibum, meaning that it's a suffix if the shlichus was really a shliach l'kabbalah or shliach l'halacha, and that sounds like Rav holds that whether halach is kizachi or not is a suffix. That's why he says when he says halach, we don't know what he meant, and therefore we don't know if he's a shliach l'halacha or he's agreeing that he should be a shliach l'kabbalah. So Mar asks, does Rav not hold that halach is kizachi? Well, we have a case that clearly shows that Rav holds halach is kizachi. Cases where somebody gives money to somebody and says, take this to Yaakov because I owe him. And so the halacha is that the person cannot retract, but if it gets lost on the way, he is responsible for it, not the one who's receiving the money. And the reason is, obviously, because he's making a shliach to be mekabel it. He's saying that you should be zeicha for it, for that you should be zeicha in it for that guy right away, and therefore, that's why he can't take it back. That's why he cannot retract. However, he's still responsible for it because the other person doesn't know that it's on the way to him and he didn't agree. So therefore, he can't accept responsibility for it. So you see that Rav clearly holds that halach is kizachi. Mar says, no, that's different. There it's a suffix, and here it's a suffix, but there it's a suffix money. Suffix money always goes l'kula, and therefore he's responsible for it. Here we're talking about a suffix iser. You have to be machmer both ways. The Gemara now brings a machlekes if a woman is allowed to make a shliach l'kabbalah to receive the get from a shliach l'halacha of her husband. The Gemara says Rav says that she is not allowed to, and Chanina says she is allowed to, and it works. Now the Gemara has two pshatim in Rav. Why should she not be allowed to? One pshat is that it is bizayin is degrading to the husband that she's not willing to take the get from his shliach directly herself, and she makes someone else to accept it. And if it's degrading to the husband, he may back out of the deal. He may not have the das that it should go through, and that'll be a problem for her get being chal. We're not concerned about that if the husband himself gives the get to her shliach, because obviously he doesn't care. But if it's the husband's shliach, it could be that the husband himself would not have. The second shot is that we're afraid this may get confused with a different case, the case of chasar bala achar mikan. That's where the husband puts the get in a courtyard that belongs to someone else, and then she buys that courtyard. Now she says, oh, look, there's a get in my courtyard, it's for me, so now I'm divorced. That obviously doesn't work because the husband didn't give her the get, and the courtyard is not responsible to divorce her. And this case is kind of similar, because the husband put it with a shliach, and then she went, and she took it from that shliach with another shliach. She went and she made a shliach afterwards. So it's a bit too similar. We're afraid people may come to be machshir that case. Says the Gemara, what's the practical difference between these two reasons? If she had made her shliach to take the get from the husband's shliach first, before the husband ever made a shliach, then you don't have any concern of chatzar bal achar mikain, because she did her part first, and therefore it's not similar to that. Now the Gemara brings an incident that happened. There was a man who sent a get to his wife.